Admiral Zephyrus of the Galactic Coalition's Third Fleet watched the tactical display with barely concealed disdain. The human delegation's representative, Captain Sarah Chen, stood before the assembled alien commanders with what the Catherian admiral could only interpret as misplaced confidence. Earth's contribution to the defense of Proxima Station will be minimal, Zephyrus announced, his crystalline voice resonating through the briefing chamber. Your vessels are centuries behind current technology. We appreciate the gesture, but perhaps it would be best if humanity focused on evacuation efforts. The other species representatives nodded in agreement. Commander Vextar of the Hegemony Navy flicked his tail dismissively. Their ships still use chemical propulsion for maneuvering. Primitive fusion reactors, no quantum shielding. It's almost quaint. Captain Chen's expression remained neutral, though her knuckles whitened slightly as she gripped her datapad. With respect, Admiral, our ships may be older in design, but they've proven effective in our engagements with the Void Raiders. The Void Raiders, scoffed Captain Morden of the Zenith Republic, her mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter among her species. Minor pirates compared to the Devourer fleet approaching Proxima. Their dreadnoughts are 3 kilometers long, equipped with dark matter cannons that can crack moons. Your largest vessel is what, 800 meters? The UES Indomitable is 900 meters. Chen replied quietly. Ah yes, the Indomitable. Zephyrus pulled up the ship's specifications. On the holographic display. Steel hull with titanium plating. How robust. I'm sure it served well in your system conflicts, Captain, but this is warfare on a galactic scale. The briefing continued for another hour, with the coalition admirals outlining their defensive strategy. Earth's small fleet, consisting of 6 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and the ancient battleship Indomitable, would be positioned in the reserve formation, well behind the main battle line. For your own safety, of course, Zephyrus had explained with what he probably thought was kindness. 3 days later, the Devourer fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima system. The sight on the tactical displays silenced even the most arrogant coalition officers. 73 vessels of impossible size and malevolent design, led by the flagship Worldbreaker, a 5-kilometer leviathan that seemed to bend light around its edges. The battle began at maximum range, with the coalition's energy weapons lancing across the void in brilliant displays of destruction. The alien ships were marvels of engineering, graceful curves of living metal, weapons that fired concentrated stars, shields that phased matter out of existence. For 2 hours they held their own. Then the Worldbreaker entered the fray. The massive dreadnought carved through the coalition line like a blade through silk. Ships that had taken decades to build were reduced to expanding clouds of plasma in seconds. Admiral Zephyrus watched in horror as his flagship sister ship simply ceased to exist under the concentrated fire of dark matter cannons. All vessels, fall back to secondary positions, he commanded, but even as the words left his vocal chambers, he knew it was over. The Devourer fleet had been toying with them. That's when the impossible happened. A new contact appeared on the tactical display, having dropped out of FTL directly behind the Worldbreaker. It was small, tiny by comparison, and broadcasting on open channels. This is Captain Chen of the UES Indomitable. We're moving to engage. Negative, Indomitable, Zephyrus transmitted frantically. Fall back immediately. That's a direct order. Sorry, Admiral, came Chen's voice crackling with static from her ship's primitive communication array. We're human. We don't do fallback. What followed defied every principle of modern space warfare that Zephyrus had studied. Instead of maintaining a respectful distance and trading energy weapons fire, the Indomitable accelerated directly toward the Worldbreaker. Its crude chemical thrusters blazed like stars as it built up velocity. The Devourer dreadnought turned its attention to this insignificant gnat, directing a barrage of dark matter that should have atomized the human ship. Instead, something extraordinary happened. The Indomitable's primitive armor, thick slabs of terrestrial steel, absorbed the exotic energy and dispersed it across the hull in a shower of sparks and molten metal. Whole sections of the ship were torn away, but it kept coming. "Impossible," whispered Commander Vextar. "Their hulls shouldn't be able to withstand that kind of—" His words were cut off as the Indomitable fired its main guns. Not energy weapons, or exotic matter projectors, but simple kinetic cannons that hurled tungsten slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles struck the Worldbreaker's adaptive shields, designed to deflect energy and phase out exotic matter, and punched straight through as if they weren't there. The Devourer ship's hull, optimized for protection against advanced weapons, crumpled like paper before the ancient concept of a very heavy object moving very fast. But the Indomitable wasn't finished. As it passed underneath the massive dreadnought, Chen activated her ship's final gambit. The human battleship's nuclear arsenal, weapons so primitive they were barely considered military hardware, detonated in a carefully timed sequence along the Worldbreaker's keel. The explosions weren't exotic. They didn't manipulate dark matter or fold space-time. They were simple nuclear fission and fusion reactions that created expanding spheres of superheated plasma and neutron radiation. The Worldbreaker's sophisticated hull, never designed to withstand such crude but overwhelming force, began to buckle and tear. Within minutes, the 5-kilometer dreadnought was breaking apart, its exotic power systems failing in cascading explosions that lit up the system like a second sun. The remaining Devourer ships, faced with the impossible sight of their flagship's destruction, hesitated just long enough for the Coalition fleet to regroup and counterattack. The battle turned in that moment of confusion, and within hours the entire enemy fleet was either destroyed or retreating into hyperspace. Later, as rescue shuttles pulled survivors from the wreckage of the Indomitable, Admiral Zephyrus stood in his command center, staring at the tactical replay. His aide, a young Catherian officer, approached tentatively. "Admiral, the preliminary analysis is complete. How did their primitive weapons succeed where our advanced systems failed?" Zephyrus was quiet for a long moment, watching as the recording showed the human battleship's final charge. "Because," he said finally, "we forgot the most important lesson in warfare. It's not about having the most advanced weapons. It's about having the will to use them." He paused, then added with something approaching respect in his crystalline voice. "And apparently when humans decide to fight, they don't just engage the enemy, they become the weapon." The legend of the Indomitable's last stand spread throughout Coalition space, and never again would anyone describe human warships as obsolete. After all, there's nothing primitive about courage, and nothing outdated about refusing to surrender. In the end, the galaxy learned what humanity had always known. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones, especially when delivered with enough conviction to crack a dreadnought in half.